how to win at chess. Just get really good at examining each piece and seeing what it might do on its next two moves, at least one move. Look for anything that can put you in check, any way you can put your opponent in check, anything you can capture, anything your opponent can capture, and look for any threat that you might see. Checks, captures, threats, but really don't get hyper-focused on one area. This is a game I played with a friend of mine who is rated at 1260 for this game just a few weeks ago, and I was rated at 1172. And this is one of our daily games. And so he opens with the Queen's Pawn, and I open with the Owen's Defense. I'm going to fianchetto, and I'm going to threaten his King's Pawn at E4, because I'm aimed right at here, and then of course here as well. So if he gets this out of the way, then I can go for the rook, etc. So, but he's well aware of that, and so he protects it with his knight. And the next part of the Owen's Defense is you release this bishop to go here and pin the knight against the king, which makes this square fair game for the fianchetto. So we'll see what he does. He puts his knight up, and then I go and block his horse from being able to move. I pin it against the king, and he's unable to do anything with that. And so then I go and expect to do something, but instead he truly protects this pawn. So this pawn is well protected, and I put my knight up. I just do regular development. I'm getting ready to castle and getting everything out and just trying to not move my pieces more than one time. And I keep going. He goes to threaten my knight, and I take his knight. So I'll have to double his pawns. I wanted to, because if I reasoned that if I chased his bishop away, then he might go back here, protect his knight, and I wouldn't be able to force him to double pawns. So I wanted to force him to double pawns, and I did, which created a weakness. And then I chased his bishop away, but the bishop went to an unexpected place, threatening this pawn that is a weak pawn, because if the queen gets, the queen is there, and if the queen goes somewhere else, then that pawn would be lost, and then he could go and take this knight, and I'd have to take with that, which I don't really like to do. So I take here because this is protected, and so if he goes here, then I'll get that. So I would get a point up, depending on what he does. He takes, I take, and I am a point up. That doesn't sound like much, but it's wonderful, and it's how to win at chess. You get one pawn up at a time. Of course, then I have my eye on this piece here. I have my eye here. I'm looking for checks. I don't have a way to put him in check. If I could go here and that was open, and this knight, couldn't take that square, I could put him in check. If I could go here, I could put him in check. So there are some ways I could put him in check. Can he put me in check? Really, no. I don't have any direct ways to be put in check. Anything I can capture this next time. I can capture that. If I want to make the king move out of the way, which sometimes is a really strong move, depending on if there's a knight here or not. But how to win at chess? Look at what's going on. Oh, yeah! And don't get rushed. Every time I get rushed and move too quickly, I lose pieces and begin to lose points. He moves his queen up to protect this pawn. Very nicely done. I move my pawn up. I'm continuing my development. I'm toying with the idea of moving this pawn up here. So then I have the structure of the same kind of defense that I use, the attack, the stonewall. I would build a stonewall attack with black here in addition to the Owen's Defense, but I don't know. I do that occasionally. So he castles, I castle, and he gets his knight down, and of course I look, what can his knight do here? And nothing. And here, that wouldn't work anything. Here, he could go there, but I would take it with my knight. He could go here, so there's nothing for him here. There's really nothing for that knight to do. But I look at everything the knight could possibly do. So let's go 2 moves from here. If he moves here, he could then move here. He could move here. He could move here, which would be a problem for me because I'd have to move here. It would expose my king. So try to look 2 moves ahead on your opponent's knights, if at all possible. Just take a minute and do that. And then I get my knight out, so I'm almost finished developing my pieces. I think I've moved everything except this rook and maybe the queen. So he gets his knight up, he's threatening my queen, so I get my queen out of the way. If you move your piece on the same color that it was attacked on with the knight cannot attack it on the very next move. Because if I had moved, so if I had moved my queen here instead, not that it would have helped him any, but he could have then gone here, and he would have taken my queen because he would have pinned, he would have forked. But thankfully, I saw that in advance and moved the queen up out of the way. The engine doesn't like that. The engine wanted me just to move here on the white, and I could have done that, but I didn't like that idea. Also, this pawn is now available to be taken. And he doesn't do it. He threatens my queen, and so I take his bishop, which of course keeps this pawn from being taken. And then I have in mind threatening these pawns. I've got both my knights that could do something here, and I have all kinds of things I could do. Of course, the queen is looking right at all these squares as well. So not sure. So he takes my knight, and there's nothing I can do about that. I didn't see it before he did. Oh no! I took his bishop. He took my. Okay, it was a trade of equal pieces. Excellent. Because I didn't think I got behind here. I'm still 1 point up, and playing with my friend, it's a challenge to do that. David is a fantastic player. So now then, he creates a weakness here. Notice that this rook is smothered. There's nothing that rook can't go anywhere. So if I could put my knight here, I could take that rook. So I sneak my queen over here with the idea of going here. Then if he takes, then I go here, and I get to take that rook. And that it worked out to a degree. So I got my queen over here, and the engine says, "What are you doing?" Well, the engine can't see what I want to do. And so he threatens this pawn, and I ignore that, and I go here to threaten his queen. He takes, and then I take his queen, and then he takes, and then I go here, and look at that. I'm getting ready to take his rook. Now then, he does a ton of things to try to distract me from that. He takes this pawn, I take, and now my king is like exposed. And then he goes here to threaten this rook. If I had been too excited and not taken my time, I would have lost a rook or traded even, which I didn't want to do. So I move up here. Notice I'm on the same color. He threatened me on green. I move on green. So he can't attack me on the very next move with this knight. It's very important if you're going to win at chess. And that's my goal, my theme is to win. He moves this rook out of the way. Not threatening anything. He could have threatened this knight. It wouldn't have made any difference. And I go and take his rook, and then he takes. So at that puts me up 2 points because I let his pawn take a couple of pieces here. So I'm not up as much as I wanted to be up. But, it is what it is. So I start advancing my pawns. I want to advance my pawns as much as I can to get them up and get a queen if at all possible. So he goes and threatens my king. He's very good with his knights. Thankfully, I hadn't moved my rook up here. I saw that if I had moved my rook up here, he could have forked my knight and my rook. And so I move here. Also, when you move, if the engine wanted me to move here, the reason I moved here is I'm kicking his knight out of the way. I want his knight to get out of there, get out of my territory. So instead, he takes my pawn, which I did not see, and so I go down here so that he can't give me a discovered check. If I had stayed here, then he could have gone somewhere and caused me trouble. He could have gone. Oh, I don't know. What could he have done? Not a lot. There's not a lot he could have done. But at any rate, I didn't want that to happen. So he gets his knight out of the way, and I go and take a pawn, and I was 1 point. I'm now 2 points ahead, and he takes one, and so now I'm back to 1 point ahead. And I moved my rook over to double it because I was going to take that pawn no matter what. What I didn't realize, if he had gone here, it would have been game over. Because you can see, if he had moved the rook here, then I had nothing I could do with my king. Check, check, I can't take that. Check from the knight, I can't go here. So it's a partially smothered checkmate. But instead, he didn't see it, and he moved his knight up, and I lived to play some more because he wanted to protect this pawn with his knight. So I go move here to threaten his knight, and then I realize if he moves his knight, depending on where he moves it, I'll be able to take this pawn. So instead, he puts me in check, and I couldn't go here to I would like to have gone there to kick his rook out of the way, but I couldn't because the knight was protecting that square. So instead, he moves here, and look what he did. He forked my king and my rook. And oh wow, I just didn't see that he was going to be able to do that. And so I missed it. I'm not sure what I could have done differently, but I know what so when he went here, instead of me going here, if I had gone here, well, I couldn't. Oh, I didn't really have a choice, did I? It was a forced move. All right, so I go here, and he forks my king and my rook, and I move here to threaten his rook. So that was a good move, because then if he takes here, we just have an even trade, which I don't, he didn't want to do that. So he moves his rook out of the way. I move my rook here to get it out of the range of this pesky knight, which is really causing me so much trouble. And so then he moves here to put me in check. And I reasoned a bunch of different scenarios, and I reasoned that the best move would be to go here with what the knight could do if I wasn't careful. So he puts me in check again, and I hide behind my rook, which gives me a little bit of a little bit of extra. The engine wanted me to go here. I didn't really like that idea. I could have, if I had gone here, and then he put me in check, I could have put my rook here, and could have possibly done something there. I don't know, but I didn't play with that idea, because look what he could have done. He would have forked my king and my rook if I wasn't careful, which he's really good at that. So now I've got to threaten his rook. He does not take the bait. Instead, he decides to threaten this pawn, and so I get the pawn up. The engine thought I should have gone here, because I could have, I could have gone here and then here, and then it would have been, potential checkmate if he didn't move his king, or move a pawn out of the way where the king wouldn't have been, susceptible to a back rank checkmate. So he gets his knight up to start threatening. I take a pawn, and he takes a pawn, and then I put him in check, and he moves, and then I get another pawn. And so this was a real tricky situation here. He goes down and he moves down here. I'm not sure what he's gonna take this pawn if I'm not careful. So I put him in check, and I put him in check again, and I really hoped I would find a way to put him in checkmate at this point. I didn't. Moved out of the way. And so now I make it where he has to trade rooks. He didn't want to do that. I mean, when you're first part of the game and you trade your pieces, it's okay. But when you're down on whole piece, not so good. And so now I am up 3, and he moves here to put me in check. I threaten his knight. So now he's going to lose a knight because the knight's threatened, or he's going to lose a rook, trade rooks, etc. So he moves his knight out of the way, threatening this pawn. And then I take, and he takes, and then I realized that if I made a run with this pawn up here, there was no way that he would be able to take this pawn before I made it to a queen. And sure enough, he takes this, and then I just run up, and I get my queen. Now then, the serious little bit of end game here is going on. I put him in check. He goes to kick my rook out of the way. So I put him here, and I had an idea. I just run my pieces, just kind of walk the king over to, checkmate in this area. And so that was my plan, but he's a really good player. He went here, and he went to his knight. And so I go here, and depending on where he moved, it would be checkmate. He's going to hide behind his knight. So I go here. He hides behind the knight. Well, whenever an opponent hides behind a piece and it's got the king, if you can put another piece on it like that, you're going to get the piece. There's nothing they can do about it. Well, almost nothing, but certainly nothing in this case. So he moves his pawn. I take, and I really had to do a ton of calculations because I could have lost the game here, right? If he got this here and got a queen, then he would be back in the game in a serious manner. And I sure didn't want that to happen. So he moves his king here. I go here, and notice I'm threatening this space. And, of course, I'm threatening this here. There's all kinds of things I'm doing, and many different options that I saw as I played the scenarios out in my head. He moves down. So I put him in check, and now I have two pieces on this pawn, and I'm going to get that pawn. He doesn't have a way to go. Does he have any ways? Sure, he could have gone here or there, but he went straight down, and then I'm able to get that, and it is checkmate. So how to win at chess? Keep looking. Make sure you don't get hyper-focused in one area. Keep an eye on your opponent's bishops and rooks and knights and everything else. And then there's strategies and find weaknesses that you can attack and take advantage of. So if you're watching at this point, you've hopefully found some value. And I would ask you to please click that subscribe button and the like button. Let me know in the comments if you've had similar experiences and what you think about this particular method of just thinking about how you're going to win at chess. Have a great day. Thank you so much.